My name is Glenda, Glenda. How many of you know about the movie The Wizard of Oz? Do you know the movie The Wizard of Oz?
These kids are not the kids. They watch the English movies frequently. They don't watch.
Okay. Okay, I normally tell people that my name is Glenda, like the Good Fairy and the Wizard of Oz. So, and my last name is Funk, Funk, and I live in Chubbuck, Idaho, which is in the Pacific Northwest portion of the United States. We are not against the Pacific Ocean, but we're considered a Pacific Northwest state. I live in an area that is a high desert country without very much water, and it gets very cold here in the winter. We get a lot of snow, and I'm a retired English and speech teacher. So I taught students how to write essays in English, primarily English speakers already, and I taught them American and British literature, some world literature, and I taught speech class, which is public speaking. So I taught them how to research and organize speeches. So,
My name is Samarnath Kanda, ma'am. I am a 10th grader from U.S.A High School. I am very happy to interact with you, ma'am. Today I would like to ask a question, ma'am. How has the education system in Idaho changed over the years during your teaching career?
how has education in Idaho changed in my teaching career? Well, I did not start my teaching career in Idaho. I actually began in Missouri, where I'm from. That's where I went to college in the state of Missouri. Do you have a map of the U.S. there, Harry, that your students said, do they have a U.S. map? I know India is a lot bigger land-wise than the U.S. is. So Missouri's kind of in the middle, the Midwest, and that's where I grew up and where I went to school. And it's called student teaching. It's a practicum, an internship where you get hands-on experience. So the biggest change, I was thinking about this, the biggest change is probably with technology. When I started teaching, we didn't have any computers. And everything was on a typewriter, an old-fashioned typewriter. And so now we have a lot of technology, but students pretty much stay the same. I think the technology, the access to technology is much different. And in terms of what I taught and how I taught, I changed what I was teaching quite a bit in terms of the literature. So it became more important to me to have more authors who were Native American authors and Black authors in the US with American literature. And we didn't have dual credit classes when I started. Those are classes that kids in high school can take for college credit. So that's pretty much how it changed.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hello.
She is Rodya, a 10th grader from VJTHS Penmaka High School. With your kind permission, may I ask you a question?
Oh, sure.
What do you think makes Idaho schools or students unique compared to other states?
Okay, well, Idaho, there is, so the primary religion in India is Hindu. Is that correct? The belief system? And your language is your first language is Hindi. Is that right? So in Idaho, well, the thing that's most unique about Idaho is that there is a very large population of Mormons here, the Mormon religion, and that has a big influence on the state. And so that's really the big difference is students here, if they are Mormon, they can leave school for an hour during the day and go to what is called seminary. And in seminary, then they learn about their religion, and they get, if they don't get credit for it in the public school, but they get credit for it for their church purposes. So if they want to go to college at a Mormon college like Brigham Young University is the top Mormon university, then they can do that. It's easier to get into Brigham Young if they are a 4-year seminary graduate. So that's really the biggest difference. I taught in Arizona when I started teaching. My first job was in Arizona, and most of my students were migrant students from Mexico. Their parents were farm workers on the farms really close to the border, southern border, where Arizona and Mexico meet. And so I knew a lot of Mexican families. I went to Mexico frequently. I had some students. This was a long time ago. It's not something I could do now, but I had students I took to Mexico. I had a seamstress down there who made clothes for me. So there were a couple of girls one time I took to Mexico to get prom dresses made. Prom is a big dance at the end of the school year. But that's not something in Idaho at all. But that's really the big difference. And a lot of.
Can you share any memorable experience from teaching in room?
Any memorable experience from teaching?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I have many. I taught for 38 years. That's a long time. I have a lot of memorable experiences. Oh, let's see. What's a really good one? I don't know. Well, I was talking about when I taught in Arizona. So I spent time with families of my students there more than here. And I remember going to an anniversary party one time for some of my students' parents, and there were only a few of us who spoke English. And I don't speak Spanish very well. I know a little bit, but it's not very much. And I ate goat, and I had never eaten goat before. And when I was working on my master's degree, I spent some time in Mexico to take a Spanish class and ate grasshoppers. And so I'll try anything that's the local culture, I suppose. I don't know. I have a lot of really good memories teaching with, I don't know a specific one. Just going to students' events and weddings and wedding receptions. And I had some boys in my last year of teaching who gave me a pillowcase for Christmas, and they had their pictures all put on the pillowcase and wrote on it, "Sweet dreams are made of these." That's a lyric from a song from the 1980s by a band named Eurythmics. And they had Santa hats on, but you guys don't do Christmas the same way or as an official holiday. When I was traveling, my last year teaching, I took a group of students to China, and some of their parents went too. So that was a lot of fun.
Good evening, ma'am. My name is Sharmukh. I'm a 10th grade student from Penmaka High School. I'm very happy to interact with you, ma'am. With your kind permission, I would like to ask a question, ma'am.
Okay.
My question is, what advice would you give to new teachers starting their career in Idaho today? What advice would you give to new teachers?
Oh, what advice would I give to new teachers? Well, do you know what a student teacher is or a student intern is? When people are becoming teachers, they come into a classroom and they practice their teaching. They teach some lessons, that kind of thing. So over the course of the years when I was teaching, I had 8 teachers in training in my classroom. And a couple of things I always told them. One is know your material. And if you don't know something, admit that you don't know, because kids can see through you. They know if you don't know. And, be nice, be kind, smile to kids. When I started teaching, they told us to be very strict. And they always said, you can loosen up later. But I found, got to the point where I thought I needed one rule and one rule only: be respectful, respect one another. And, just that kind of thing. Just be respectful, but know what you're doing, have things planned well, and things go well in terms of classroom management if you be respectful. And then I think the other thing is it's really important to give kids some choice. And in the U.S. anyway, kids want to make decisions about what they learn. And so I learned little things about how to allow students to have some choice, but still get them to do what I knew they needed to do, which is, I suppose a little bit of trickery. But that's what I always told young teachers who were starting out. I still work with a couple of young teachers occasionally, who reach out to me and need a mentor or want some advice, and do what I can to help them, provide some insight to them. But yeah, you have to be willing to change and think in terms of what it is you as a teacher need to do to get students to do what they need to do. So I thought about that a lot over the years, and and I thanked my students. I think it's very important for teachers to thank their students. Our jobs are dependent on the students being in the classroom, and the students. Listen, in the U.S. anyway, no teacher is in control, only to the extent that kids let us be in control. And so I thanked my students for letting me have my way, and for letting me have some control in the classroom. And, and I acknowledged to them that I knew that they could make things as chaotic as they wanted to, or be as cooperative as they wanted to be. And I was lucky. They were almost always very cooperative. So.
High School. With your permission, can I ask you one question, ma'am?
Sure.
How have Idaho's local culture and environment influenced by the way students learn or teachers teach?
Learn, and how do teachers teach?
Yes.
Okay, so it's more that way. Well, it depends on the student and depends on the class, what you're teaching. So I'll give you an example. If you're in an English class, right? You're learning English. Do you read stories in your class? Poetry or novels or anything like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you read any? Yeah. Okay, so let's say you're reading a story, right? So I've asked you to read the story, and everyone comes in because you're all great students, right? Even those fellows back there in the back, they're good students. Hi, guys back there. I see you. Yeah, so a guy holding his forehead there. I'm waving. Hello. Yeah, I see you. So you all came in, and instead of me telling you what we're going to talk about with the story, I'm going to ask you. And I might ask you if there's something particular you want to talk about. Is there something you liked about the story, something you didn't like about the story? Is there a character who made you mad? What are your thoughts? That's how we're going to start. The very first thing. So in a class discussion, which I very much like, and we're talking to students about what we've read, I want to hear from them first and have them talk to me about that. Now, there are some classes that I taught where the material was very new to kids. And so I had to do some lecturing. But in as much as I could, the conversation was driven by what the students wanted to talk about. And then I would fill in the gaps as we go. And I very frequently said, you're all sitting on the floor there, right? Is this typical? Is this normal that you sit on the floor, or do you sit at tables and desks normally? So I sat at a student desk if I was having a discussion with students. So I don't like to be up here and students down here. I like to be able to be eye to eye with them so I can look at them, see what they're thinking, read their body language, tell whether or not they're bored. Sorry, guys, back there. The closer you sit to information you're getting, the less likely you get bored. It's harder to understand the further back you are. So that's essentially what I would do if we were reading something together.
Give a message to my students first. Could you please give a message?
A message to them?
Yes.
Just learn for yourselves. I told my students all the time, their education isn't about their teachers. It isn't about their parents. It's not about anyone but yourself. The only person you have to be with 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week is yourself. You don't ever get to say goodbye to yourself. You're with yourself all the time. And so learn for yourself. And girls, I will tell you my favorite advice to share with girls, and it may not be quite culturally what you hear, but my dad died when I was very young. I was 16 years old, about your age, just a little bit older than you are, when my father died. And he was very ill, and he told me two things. He said, one, never be financially dependent on a man. Always be able to take care of yourself. Be an independent female, take care of yourself. So I said it might not be culturally what you would normally hear. And two, he said, never put up with any crap from men. Don't let anyone mistreat you. Same for you, fellows. Don't let people mistreat you. Have enough self-respect that you do not let people walk all over you and mistreat you. And always learn for yourself. Because the smart people are the ones that, who know and keep learning, be lifelong learners. And that's what I try to do. I'm on the downhill slide of life, as they say, because I'm old at this point. But I try to keep my brain active. And I like talking to kids too. So
yes, Glenda, thank you so much. And now I would like